So I watched the Sunday shows today, and I just wanted to briefly go over the points that I was hearing on all the shows. 1. The whistleblower complaint regarding President Trump's conversation with the President of Ukraine on July 25th, 2019 matches the transcript released by the White House. Now, when I say transcript, it's because even before the transcript came out, media and pundits were already saying that it wasn't going to be the real transcript, that it was going to be covered up, that it was going to be edited, that it was going to be doctored with a Sharpie. And maybe it wasn't even a real transcript. Like, I think some miniature guy sits there taking notes with, like, an organ grinder, too. Like, I mean, come on. You know, you're telling me they don't employ a stenographer at the White House? You're telling me that there's no way to verify what the phone call really said? I've also read and seen and transcribed a lot of tapes. This sounds like an authentic phone call to me. So all I can say is, why is there this really loud clamor claiming that the transcript isn't really a transcript? I just find that very curious. But just in case you were wondering, the transcript does not match the whistleblower complaint. The whistleblower complaint, it's a work of art. It might even be like the 12th wonder of the world. I mean, first of all, it's on the website of the law firm of Compass Rose Legal Group. One of the partners is the former Inspector General of National Intelligence during the Clinton email investigation, which was just 3 years ago, I believe. It's 7 pages. Basically, it says there were 5 officials, 4 or 5 separate officials that approached this person who he claims is a current member of the government. Those officials approached this person, the whistleblower, to express their concern at a phone call that happened on July 25th, 2019, in which the President of the United States did the following things. He pressured the new President of the Ukraine to look for dirt on his primary political opponent, Joseph Biden, former vice president, and 2, that he had brought in his personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, as well as his attorney general, and according to the Democrats, his other personal attorney, William Barr. It goes on to say that officials in the White House were part of those who had shared this information with him, and that they were concerned immediately after the phone call that this was improper and there was something really bad going on. But the phone call itself, seriously does not match the complaint. That complaint is one interpretation of the phone call and leaves out a tremendous amount of context, which is what the president's friends or surrogates, not friends, but officials who are friendly to the president, said on all the Sunday shows, including Fox with Chris Wallace, CNN with Jake Tapper, Face the Nation with somebody I don't know, a woman, and another one I watched, 60 Minutes, also with a young woman. And it was funny because all 4 of those shows, including Fox with Chris Wallace, shared the same exact points. So in addition to the complaint matching the transcript, they claimed that Nancy Pelosi changed her mind about impeachment because Trump had been withholding $391 million in lethal military aid to Ukraine. I looked into that, and it looks like Trump claimed at the UN that he was withholding that aid because he has been kind of grinding the axe that Europe isn't paying as much as we are for the defense of those in their sphere. Another reason that aid was being withheld, I believe, is that Trump wanted to investigate and make sure that the new president was going to be going along with anti-corruption and wasn't going to be, adding to the corruption. But according to all of these reporters, the case is closed that Trump was withholding this aid because he wanted a favor. And, in true fashion, that Comey's been saying it, Robert De Niro's been saying it, everybody has been saying that Trump is a con man, he's a mob boss. So it just, of course, this is absolutely falls in line with this pattern that we've been hearing from all of these wonderful, trusted, long-term government officials. This money is being touted as proving quid pro quo, which is an exchange of favor for favor, which implies organized crime. There's just one small problem with that. One of the things is that Trump had already armed them with lethal weaponry in 2017. And this was applauded, unbelievably, it was applauded by both sides of the aisle. So before giving them about 5 times as much aid a few years later, he wanted to do a reassessment. There was some talk in the phone call about the fact that Trump felt that Germany wasn't doing enough. So that actually is consistent with what Trump had said at the UN. Oh, pardon me. Next talking point, the prosecutor that was fired by pressure from Joe Biden. You have the prosecutor that was fired, and you have the prosecutor that Joe Biden and the U.S. government approved of and sanctioned to be brought in. This was 2 years after an uprising that overthrew a president, Viktor Yanukovych, who was sympathetic or friendly or, just communicating with Russia. And this uprising was apparently birthed and midwifed by Joe Biden, according to a leaked phone call between the State Department top official for European Affairs, Victoria Nuland, and the ambassador to Ukraine at the time, Mr. Payet. And this phone call basically revealed that we were trying to effectively achieve regime change without anybody knowing about it. That is kind of a big deal that was only 2 years earlier. Now, what we got to understand is there's this huge talking point right now with those Sunday shows that the prosecutor general that Biden wanted fired was corrupt, and that everyone in the Western world, especially government officials, wanted this guy fired because he was corrupt. Well, what you start to learn when you really zoom in on things is that one man's definition of corruption is another man's definition of virtue. And so simply because the word out there is that this guy was corrupt, you still have to look at the cases, you have to look at the background, you have to look at how it started. How it all started was that there was $23 million in a bank in London being held by the owner of Burisma Holdings, which was a natural gas company in Ukraine. And this person was out of the country at the time, either in Austria or England, and the London fraud office froze the money. And there was a case pending in England and Britain. And what happened was, from what I could gather, eventually the money was unfrozen. And eventually the verdict was that he had done nothing wrong and that he didn't acquire this money improperly. This was the sort of background to, this was in, I think, 2015. And then prosecutor for the new U.S.-backed government, his name was Viktor Shokin. And what everyone is saying right now is that Shokin's case about Burisma was dormant. But we know that this is not true. There are multiple sources that say that he was about to interview the son of Joe Biden imminently, in a few days, when he was fired. The case was very much active. So I'm not sure where mainstream media is getting their information, but there's a lot more to it. And the case was very active. Also, there was an article out in 2015 in the New York Times by a very fearless soul, James Risen, and it exposed the fact that Hunter Biden had this seat on the board and monthly stipend. It also revealed that the company stonewalled all reporting on this. I've also found out from other sources that there was a former Justice Department, assistant U.S. attorney. It was a former assistant attorney general who was actually representing Burisma, who met with members of the Ukrainian government after Viktor Shokin was fired. And it actually took all the way till 2017 for this gentleman, the former U.S. attorney who's representing Burisma now, to get the case fully dismissed and settled with Burisma that had all started back over in London. Why would there be this American guy involved when he had formerly worked for the government? Why are all these former government officials involved in this situation? I mean, you gotta admit, the whistleblower's attorney is like a former government official. Burisma's attorney is a former government official. So let's look at Giuliani. All right, that sounds really bad. And of course, Trump doesn't really make it sound any better. When asked about Giuliani going and trying to get information about the situation with Hunter Biden and Burisma and the whole case, Trump says, well, he's my personal attorney, he was defending me. Well, in his sort of on the spectrum sort of way, he might have been referring to the assertion that Giuliani became interested in Ukraine much earlier in the course of his defending of his client, the president, during the Mueller investigation. So technically, Giuliani was looking to clear and defend his client. But to the average listener, it just sounds, it sounds like a mob boss. But I mean, to me, this stuff is there's not even a debate, because when you really look into the situation with the revolution in 2014, the brutal fascist paramilitary squads that helped bring that in, this is what you realize. It's a fact that Ukraine has been trying to get in touch with someone in the U.S. government and the Trump administration to bring to their attention the wrongdoing and the fact that this case has never been investigated. The case of the firing, the case of Burisma before that, the case of the regime change, the case of the fact that where was that $23 million coming from, the fact that 40% of Ukrainian people are in poverty, and the fact that there's a lot of human trafficking going through Ukraine. I mean, it's amazing, but all of these all of these cable news hosts have absolutely zero interest in this. And I understand that they're two separate cases. But if you really zoom in on the context, then you realize that Trump wasn't just wildly grasping for dirt from this, former Soviet republic. No. He was continuing a dialogue that had been going on with those in Ukraine, actually trying to establish honest government again and get other nations to stop interfering in their government, whether it's Russia or the United States. I mean, it's not just that, let's go look at the other side and let's look what the Democrats have done. No, this concerns everyone. So just dig a little bit deeper, because bless their hearts, the hosts of these 4 Sunday shows, I mean, they've got to really become experts on a lot of different things. And honestly, I don't think they're being served well by the experts that they're talking to. When I was in Washington, I was an intern at CNN one summer. And what I noticed is a lot of the reporters, because they're covering several different issues at once, they go to and rely on think tanks to basically tell them what the salient point is, what should be the most important takeaway, and this and that, when they really don't even know. And hey, good on them that they're so quick on their feet. But I think they need to broaden they need to enlarge the well from which they drink. And so this is sort of a combination. It's not all intentional. No, it's not. We've actually just become accustomed to a certain rhythm and a certain trust of the American government that we would never question. So those are my thoughts on the main talking points of today's Sunday, September 29th, 2019. Happy October, and may we all find the truth and be willing to change if we find that we were mistaken. Thank you.